this is something like my dad would have used. Like, I don't know, in the early 80s or something. I just don't know what else I would use. What would be better? He'll be carrying a bicycle, no one knows why, no one knows why. He'll be carrying his own bicycle, no one knows why. He'll be carrying his own bicycle. He'll be carrying his own bicycle. He'll be carrying his own bicycle, no one knows why. Oh, this is such a bad idea. So, the Georgetown, Loveland Pass, Guanella Pass over mountain route. The idea is you ride a bike from Georgetown up to Loveland Pass. So you start at 12,000 feet. You dismantle the bike. You put it on a backpack and you put the backpack on your shoulder. And you basically hike the Continental Divide all the way to Guanella Pass. The portage goes over about 6 different named mountains, including 2 14ers and a Centennial. And it's around 15 miles itself and about 7,500 feet of elevation gain and loss. Yeah, it's a pretty good hike in of itself. It's done every once in a while just on foot, having cars waiting for you on each side. But I thought, since I don't own a car, why not just bring my transportation with me? I think I left Georgetown at like 2:30 in the morning, and I reached Loveland Pass right when the sun was coming up. So everything's nice and still. The sun's coming up, just illuminating the mountains that are all around me, and it was just a really nice time to be where I was. And my next task was to take the bike I've been riding, take all the parts off that would stick me in the sides and the back and stuff, and very carefully stow them away, having all those pieces attach onto a backpack. And then later that day, be able to reassemble the bicycle was kind of a problem in of itself. So one of the things that made this project less a dream and more reality is I was at the local sports recyclery in town, and I saw this like ridiculous plastic old school external framed backpack, and I just saw this potential, and I thought, perfect. Ponied up the $5, you know, and brought it home, and it got my mind swimming with ideas of what I could do with this thing. All right, time to leave. Oh, this is such a bad idea. This backpack weighs so much. Oh well. I took a couple of tourist photos of the sign, because I've been on top of Loveland Pass a good half dozen times at least, so it's kind of fun to see the progression of me and my bikes as I get on top of this thing. And I felt good, as you do when you start stupid things like this, you know, and then I realized like just how heavy the bike was and how awkward the load was. You know, it wasn't like balanced in any like educated or intelligent way. And yeah, it was more like the weight. Like, this thing is way heavier. Like, this isn't like a $10,000 dream bike. I realized that I'm only on like my first hour. I've maybe summited one little peak, and I had many more peaks to go and many more miles to go, and that this was going to be quite the adventure. Look where we are! So the first peak went, and it was fine, you know, I felt good that I was actually on my way, and I didn't want to like run back. And then like I took my pack off to take a break or something, and I put it on like with a little bit of gusto, and actually the pack broke on me. The pin holding my my bag together, my hip strap, isn't there anymore. And without it, this whole thing doesn't work. Both the shoulder strap and the hip strap were connected by this one pin in the external frame pack, and that had broken off. So I couldn't like, I could kind of single strap it like I was in middle school or something, but I've got 30 plus pounds on my pack to just kind of like get me off kilter. So I kind of looked, you know, kind of MacGyver it. I'm like, what do I have in my possession? It's like, well, I have an entire bike. Can I break a spoke off or something, or could I use a cable or something? And sure enough, I had a key for my bike lock. And that keychain ring was the perfect thing to replace what I had broken. So emergency averted. I put that little keychain ring into the pin that was off, and I was on my way. And then I had my first 14er to stare down. From Grizzly Peak, you have Torrey's Peak, so it's this huge talus climb up. And it's a little bit intimidating when you have so much weight in your pack, but there's really nothing to do. There's really nothing to do except go forward, one step at a time. So the next thing was graze, and like in between I just met all these people and said hello. It was kind of nice because graze and Torreys are very popular, and the rest of the route I wasn't going to see anybody. So it was kind of a nice little break from doing the I'm alone in the wilderness kind of shtick. And I got ready for the next peak, which was Mount Edwards. And Mount Edwards was going to be the kind of technical crux. It wasn't just that there was no trail. It got kind of steep and kind of loose, and kind of had to like pick my way through, which, you know, usually is not a problem. I never did it with, you know, a bike on my back. So there was a little bit of like kind of a new experience for everyone. Top of Mount Edwards. That was pretty tough. Graze and Torreys are looking really nice back of me. That might have been the harder one, the second hardest after getting up Torreys from Grizzly. Just seemed like it was very far away, farther than it looked. From Mount Edwards, it seems like, you know, it's just this straight shot to my last peak, which is Square Top Mountain. The ridgeline looks chilled. It just kind of like barely undulates, and all the peaks seem like just like kind of like named points rather than mountains. And of course, like the reality could be nothing but. While I was hiking from Mount Edwards, it seems every time I turned a corner or something, I realized that the gentle ridgeline I was on drastically descends and then goes up to another mountain. And I'm just like looking at this going like, maybe Square Top is the mountain closer to the one I think is Square Top. And of course it's not. And somewhere on this point, I realized I had lost my sunscreen. Now, I don't know how you deal with the sun, but I am genetically engineered to live in frozen bogs. So what I did was I just had my sun hood up, you know, covering my face as much as possible, with only like my big nose showing through, and just hoping that I wasn't gonna get burnt to a crisp. Oh, it's been a long day, but you can still see the entire line. I realized that this was going to be really difficult to bring in and finish. Kind of running out of water, kind of getting an altitude headache. To be honest, it was the first time I was at altitude all year, so I wasn't really acclimated all that well. And maybe not the best project to kind of reintroduce yourself into the high country. But again, details. The best way to finish this was just to keep going forward, you know? So you just have to kind of like reevaluate the pace and get her done. And finally, the last descent to a saddle and then ascent to Square Top showed itself to me. And you know, I knew I had enough to get up it. And yeah, on Square Top is when the sun started to fall behind the mountaintops. And I realized just how late it was that day. Just one foot in front of the other with a silly bicycle on my back. I've done Square Top before, but of course I've forgotten exactly how it works. And man, when you don't know exactly where the trailhead is, the trailhead seems as if it just goes further and further and further away. And you know, at this point I was kind of losing my mind just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Hard. Heavy. And once at Guanella Pass, once you have the bike back together, it's another 13 miles straight downhill back to Georgetown. So I belly flopped back to the Georgetown Visitor Center, I want to say around 12:30 in the morning. So I left at 2:30 in the morning. So it took me 22 and a half hours. Is that right? That was a long 22 and a half hours. Safe to say I didn't really vet the entire idea out. I just was like psyched to find this pack, and I was like, this will be perfect. Oh, that's how we do it. What could go wrong? And went for it, like you sometimes have to do, you know. There's no project where you have infinite time to figure out every detail, so You have to figure out like now's the time we're doing it. It'll be a new cultural phenomenon. People just walking around with bikes on top of them themselves rather than the other way around. It's very postmodern. All the kids will be doing it. That's it.